Hi, everyone. Good morning. We'll be starting in just a second. All right, I'm getting the thumbs up. Getting a thumbs up from Juan, the great Oz, really. Juan is with Oz here. Welcome to our New Mexico True how-to webinar, how to be social. Before we get started, a little kind of behind the scenes-ish. Susie, would you close the door, please? We tend to make a lot of noise here around the tourism department, so in order to keep us on task, it'd be good to have no distractions. So welcome, everybody. My name is Rebecca Leatham. I'm the Cabinet Secretary of the New Mexico Tourism Department, and I am joined by an esteemed panel of highly social women, not necessarily what we would have called, social a decade ago. You guys are all geniuses in social media. There's so much to learn. I'm so excited about this. We've already put 2 webinars in place to tackle social media. So let me introduce Erin Ladd, our new marketing director here at the New Mexico Tourism Department, and then we'll jump right in with our panelists. And why don't you tell us who you are, tell us a little bit about your company, what you do, and what is your social media platform of choice. So Amy, you might start it?
Sure. My name is Amy Tischler. I am co-owner of Simply Social Media based here in Santa Fe. We're a social media consultancy, and we say consultancy because we don't like to put ourselves in a box. We like to be open. We like to think that social media is sort of still the Wild West a little bit, where there aren't a lot of constrained rules about what you can do, so it's really exciting, really only limited by our imagination. And Caitlin and I, my business partner, Caitlin Jenkins, actually met on Instagram. So that's a good segue into our favorite platform, which is Instagram. And so we really believe in the power of social media to form connection and community. And we're actually, we think, living proof of 2 people who met on social media and now are doing it for a living. So yeah, it's an exciting time in business to be in.
Wonderful. That's great. Instagram, I'm sure we will. You're not the only one, I'm sure, there. But Tracy, how about you?
My name is Tracy Cox, and I am the social media and content specialist for Visit Albuquerque. So we promote Albuquerque as a tourism destination for leisure, meetings and conventions, things like that. So I run the social media accounts there, as well as create content for the blog, for example, do some writing for the website, newsletters, various things like that. I would have to say that my favorite platform is also Instagram. I have to agree with you there. However, I also do love the diversity of what you can share that you can still access from Facebook. So I would have to say that's my close runner-up because, the content you can share on there can be really so diverse. Yeah.
I'd like to bring the attention to everyone right now on October the 19th at 10-ish in the morning, a millennial said Facebook favorite platform. Again, that's because there are no rules in social media. And as someone who we've learned a lot about social media from and that there are no rules, Wendy, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and your platform.
My name is Wendy Forbes, and I'm the owner of Wendy92, and I call it a social media navigation firm because I think that most people want to know where to go and how to get there, and teaching someone how to navigate that is one of my favorite things to do. And although, I also manage content across multiple social media platforms, my favorite thing is really teaching. And I think, the more people that know how to use social media in New Mexico and use it well, the better off our entire state is from a business perspective, from a lifestyle perspective, across the board. My personal favorite has been and remains, since I started on it in 2008, Twitter. And I don't think that's going to change unless it mysteriously goes away. I do love Instagram. In fact, I credit Amy and Caitlin for getting me on that bandwagon and seeing the potential there, a few years ago. And Facebook is
Facebook is there. But everyone's on Facebook.
But everyone is there, so you have to do
it.
It's kind of like years ago when you had to have a website. Now you have to have a Facebook
Yeah.
page if you want to be legit.
It's true.
That's true. You need to write that down. You have to have a Facebook page if you want to be legit. If you have questions today, there are two ways that you can let us know about your questions. We'll try to get to them at the end. The first being, send us a text message. Susie is handling our phone bank today. Her phone number for text is area code 505-795-0343. I'll mention that a couple more times. You can also tweet us at NM Tourism. Before we get into our first question, Erin, tell us a little bit about you, your role, and your platform of choice.
Okay. Then I'm going to ask you as well. So just get ready for it. My name is Erin Ladd. I'm the new marketing director here at New Mexico Tourism Department. I actually spent 5 years working in Silicon Valley in the startup industry. So I spent several years as a social media manager for a brand. So I know what it means from a marketing perspective. I know what it means from a community building perspective, which can sort of be different priorities depending on what your primary KPIs are. So I have many feelings about social media. We'll get into it. So I have to say the social media network that I am most addicted to, hands down, is Twitter. I can't quit Twitter. It's my news feed. It's my connection to the world. But that's not to say it's the most enjoyable. And it's not to say for marketing purposes that it always drives the best conversions or that you see the traffic from Twitter that you would like. So for that, it's Facebook all the way. Facebook's a performer. Facebook's a workhorse, which is what I like about Facebook. For pure glee, Instagram all the way. Just who doesn't love a beautiful image presented with a dreamy filter? Who doesn't like that? I enjoy it like crazy. So it's like they're all my children and I love them for different reasons. But some of those are based in like kind of under the radar marketing reasons, and some of them are based on like my emotional connection to a pretty image of the Albuquerque Balloon Fiesta. So tell us what your favorite social media network is.
I feel like it changes based on the day. I go through phases where I'm really into Instagram and I just want to see the pictures. I don't want to deal with the games or really the emotions, the caption. I just want to see the pictures. I too am really, really into Twitter simply because that's about the attention span that I have. Mm-hmm. But Facebook is where my family is. And when you're across the country from your family and you're raising children, Facebook is always going to be like where I'm connecting to my family through pictures of my children. I also use all three as an active propaganda machine for New Mexico tourism. I mean, it really is. I'm just constantly, if there's anything that's positive about tourism in New Mexico or New Mexico True, I'm just sending them out in all channels. So they serve different purposes, and I feel like they serve different like parts of personalities, which when you get into a brand can be very complicated because you're supposed to be like one thing. But I think we'll get into that a little bit more. I do want to start kind of going back to Facebook and measurement and how do we measure success. At one point everything was measured on how many people liked you, how many people liked your page on Facebook, and now there's so much more to it. So let's talk about that. How is success measured now? Is it still in likes or is it in something different? And then personally, for you three, what has to happen for you to say, yes, this is a success? So who wants to start?
I would say that you can't discount likes. You can't. I don't think they're as important as they once were. They don't carry as much weight, but you can't discount them. But I think we have gravitated in the industry to wanting to have more real engagement, and engagement in terms of conversation. And so if you see a comment, it's much more valuable than a like, because it means somebody stopped for however, 15, 30 seconds to actually type something, and it resonated with them enough to make them stop versus like and move on. So for us, we're really looking to create that conversation and engagement around the content versus just a follow of the page.
Yeah, I would have to agree with that. I know the posts that I have, the big yes moment, is the one where we have a really long list of comments in the comment section, and people are really engaging and creating a conversation about it. And I know, with some of the platforms like Facebook, I know that the more people are commenting, the more people they know are also going to see that, because the way the algorithm kind of works, their aunt over here might see so-and-so commented on this post over here, and you start to your reach expands further and further as the conversation develops, within a post or within a share. Also with that, I think shares, when I do a certain post, and this is referencing Facebook specifically, but when I put out a certain post that has quite a few shares by the end of the day, that's always a big, yes moment as well. Shares, engagement,
definitely.
yeah.
I feel like shares kind of validate that you've done something good,
Yeah.
Not only is it from a performance perspective increasing your reach, but it's just that kind of, pat on the back of like, yep, we're not the only ones that liked this, that other people liked it too. Yeah, that's great. What about you, Wendy?
Well, I think from a post perspective, I agree with everything that you said. From a campaign perspective, I still think that we're looking at conversions, regardless of what platform. And Instagram, that's a little bit more difficult because you can't have clickable links within the. I'm hoping they're going to change that.
Yeah.
Someday. But I think you see the times where I go yes is when I have a client that's participating in some sort of voting contest, and at the end of that, they come out a winner. Then I know, because most of that is done through social, that what we've done on social media has been a success. They come out number 1, they come out number 2, they come out number 3, they're listed, they get that extra PR bump, they get that extra stuff to share across social media. And so I try not to be as good as my last post, but I try to take kind of a bigger view of what is it that we're trying to accomplish over this week, over this month, over this quarter, and what are those individual posts that you have to do to make that happen.
So an example of that would be like with Las Vegas and Main Street.
Thanks for
and,
mentioning
There we go.
Go to Main Street, Las Vegas.
Great, wonderful. Yeah, I think that's an interesting approach. That looking at it per post, then you don't get the same sense for like, did I accomplish what I came to accomplish? Would you all agree?
Yeah. Absolutely. There's a lot of strategy behind the campaign. You can't do it by the day. You really have to sit down and think about it and sort of craft it. And you can be organic in that and still timely and leave yourself some room for that. But really, you do need to have an idea of what it is you want to accomplish.
Yeah.
So nobody knows what we're trying to accomplish better than our marketing director here for New Mexico True. What are you, how are you measuring success, and when does your team sit around and do high fives and chest bumps like, yes, we killed it?
I can put this in the context of something that we're running right now, which is applicable to hopefully all of us in the entire state. So right now we have a campaign that is totally all about in-state pride. We have 2 great videos that we've created. We're pushing them on social in posts. And the response that we have gotten, not just from New Mexicans living in New Mexico, but former New Mexicans who are living elsewhere who have so much pride in being New Mexican that they follow our page, that they're liking our content. For example, as part of these videos, we do sort of a pastiche of shots of Zia tattoos, which is so New Mexico, right? And the biggest high five moment that myself and our social and digital strategist, Eric, had is that people watched that video and started commenting with their own photos of their own Zia tattoos. Okay,
Really?
So that's not just a comment or a like, which we have plenty of, and they're beautiful and they're great, and I highly recommend everybody go check out these posts on our Facebook page. But that people took a picture of their own body art and commented with that. So that is just, I would say, the gold standard for the kind of social media engagement that we're looking to cultivate. So
My husband walked through the door the day that we put the first commercial on Facebook, and he walked through the door holding his phone with his tattoo, and he said, "It's the same one." And I was like, Okay, now you do that while I take a picture of you, but I thought it was really cute. But and my husband, I think, is unengageable. I mean, really, he's one of those voyeurs. Like he wants to see what everybody else is doing, but he doesn't really engage. But so it's
pulled it out of him.
Like, look at me, this is me.
Yeah.
So engagement comes. This is really important.
Absolutely, and especially for particularly the means of a campaign like this that we're doing here at the tourism department, that I just couldn't have thought before we put that on Facebook that that's the kind of engagement that we get, and what a gift it was to see that kind of engagement. So absolutely, hands down, it's all about, when people comment on a post, it's hard to monitor exactly what those comments are. It's hard to keep an eye on who's commenting and when. I mean, that's a lot of social media management, is the process of monitoring and watching. So the fantastic thing about the way these particular posts went viral is that I just couldn't have dreamed up a better way for them to go viral and a better reason for them to go viral. So everybody go check them out, and you're going to see just a litany of Zia tattoos. People writing in with their Zia tattoos from Michigan and Wisconsin and California, people living other places who just like New Mexico's in their heart and on their body. So it's pretty fantastic. I would say that for marketing purposes is probably our number one.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because we own and curate a platform, Simply Social Media NM, and 2 days ago we did and it has been one of our the engagement is crazy. We're getting DMs from people who are sending their own. People are
direct messages
through Instagram, but people are also talking to each other on this thread about let's go get one. I want one. This inspires me. So there's so much New Mexico pride. It's really incredible and inspiring, and you all, really showcase it extraordinarily.
Well, I think that leads, that's a great segue to the next question, talking about engagement, and likes are important, but if you're not engaging with all the people that like you, then you're kind of missing the boat. Let's talk about, short of starting a whole new tattoo wave, like what are your tips for engagement? How can our local tourism professionals, our local marketers, our attractions, destinations, communities, New Mexico surfers, what are your tips for them?
I mean, I think, based on what you said about this post, that all the strategy in the world sometimes will not make something go viral.
Right.
You can think you've created the most wonderful post and people are going to love it and they're going to share it, and then you get nothing. And so I always tell people, you have to throw away your fear, and you have to be willing to experiment. And see sometimes what sticks. I think that people are a little bit afraid that they're going to put something out there and then the reaction is going to be bad. Well, that might happen, but you can always try to turn that around, because anytime you start to create a conversation, you start to form a relationship. And it's just like the real world. Once you start talking with someone and forming a relationship, it's a little bit harder to be mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a little bit easier to turn them on to the great things that are either about your business or your destination. And so getting rid of that fear and being willing to kind of stick your neck out there and experiment with different kinds of content. Sometimes a different voice, sometimes a different kind of photo than you would normally. And using user-generated content, I think, is huge.
Huge.
So I think that opens the door for a whole nother a tip of how you're using user-generated content and how that's increasing engagement. So what are your tips?
I think another thing that this kind of goes back to your Zia tattoo concept. People love to voice their side of things, or they like to be asked a question or have some way that they can have input in it. Sometimes if you frame something with a question, it encourages people to give their opinion or response, or and sometimes it's also great to increase engagement by kind of, you have to be careful with the realms of this, but stir a little bit of a fun debate, about maybe somebody's favorite New Mexican food. Everybody's so excited about something like that. So when you bring up that subject, everybody's got their input.
We love to talk about burritos.
It's true. And then,
again, the pride in New Mexico. Right?
Exactly. And so then people on the outside of that conversation are seeing that and see how passionate everybody is in that conversation, and it's exciting for them too. They want to see what all the fuss is about and want to be part of that, and it really kind of continues to draw in outside. So really asking that question, spurring conversation, and maybe even, friendly, light debate about certain things that can really kind of encourage the engagement.
And Amy, isn't it there's kind of like there's a method, there's a formula in that you can't, because of, I think, social media algorithms, you can't expect to just put something out there once a month and then have huge engagement. You have to grow engagement slowly so that you start to see the yield. So what tips do you have for growing that?
You have to be patient. You really do. You can't expect to throw a hashtag on it and have something go viral. I mean, it just doesn't work like that. And you have to have sort of a long game focus. Consistency also is huge, whether it's 3 times a week that you're posting or whether it's every day that you're posting. Your followers will find comfort and know, they love consistency, that you're out there and you're talking. Broadcasting versus being social, I think so many people forget. Social media is all about being social, and so asking questions to try to engage people, but also responding to comments. If people are taking the time to make a comment, you shouldn't leave them hanging out there. And it only, social media is time-consuming, all of it added up, but it really doesn't take much just to say thank you for sharing your experience. That means so much to that person on the other side. People really want to feel heard, and so social media gives people an outlet to reach a brand or a business or an organization that they might not ordinarily have access to. And so for them to take the time, I think, is worth acknowledging. And it can really build up, brand loyalty or business. You have a client who then is going to go out and tell their friends about how great your business or your product is.
When you think about the origin of social media, that Facebook was designed to connect people to people. So when you as a business or a brand come in, you hit the nail on the head, I think, with you cannot just broadcast. Right. Like it was designed to connect people to people. So as a business, you have to act like a person in order to make the best of that connection.
Absolutely.
Do you have anything to add on engagement before we move up to about change?
Yeah, kind of. It's all about building that brand trust via a process of posting and sharing part of yourself, for lack of a better word, part of your brand, part of that personality, so that when you do have something that you want to broadcast, like, hey, we just won this award, or we just got covered in the New York Times, or something that's an incredible achievement for your town or destination or business or brand, that by the time you have something that you do want to broadcast, that you have enough people who care, who personally care, that they will care also about your successes. That don't have that much to do with them, but then they're psyched to see you in the New York Times. So that's the only thing I'll add to engagement, is that the end game of building all of this brand trust is, at the end of the day, when you have something that you're excited about, when the brand is something they want to brag about, that you have people who will brag along with you.
Yeah, and true. And one more thing on that note, when someone says something bad about you, then you have a cavalcade of people who will come to your brand event.
Yeah.
And that's the best thing, is for you to not have to get defensive on social media because you've spent so much time cultivating your brand ambassadors. And a lot of times you'll see it's the same people who are commenting and sharing, but those are your most valuable fans, because they will step up to your defense if someone says something negative.
What about also for engagement and increasing engagement? With PR, traditional PR, we're always looking for timely angles. If it's a specific day, if it's New Mexico True Webinar Day, or week, or month. How can you increase engagement by finding something timely or relevant that's happening on a bigger level? I wouldn't jump into #MeToo if you're trying to promote tourism. How can you, where is the sweet spot that you can tap into where everybody's already talking about something and you're like, hey, look at me, I'm talking about this.
I think that's the trick, right?
Yeah.
Is staying on top of that and trying to figure out how to use your voice to fit into whatever that campaign is.
I think there are some easy ones that happen every week for the travel industry, particularly on Twitter. You know, there's Travel Tuesday, there's Wanderlust Wednesday. So those are two things that you can always plan on participating in. Throwback Thursday is a big one as well. Follow Friday. So if you have some really great Twitter followers that are always sharing your content, it's nice to give them a little bit of a shout out on Follow Friday, like these are people on Twitter that, you know, are worth following. Again, I think that it's risky for a brand. You know, I have a lot of businesses will say, I don't want to step out there and retweet something or say follow someone because I'm kind of giving them an endorsement. It is social. It is part of that language, particularly on Twitter, and people do expect it. You know, I'm certainly not perfect and have been called out. It just in the last couple of weeks of like, hey, you know, we retweet your stuff all the time, and you've never retweeted us once. That's not good.
Yeah.
You know, good lesson for me to hear that.
Again, it's that social engagement, right?
Yeah.
If you want someone to endorse you, then you have to endorse them.
Right.
It's a give and take.
Absolutely.
Interesting. Well, you mentioned, sorry.
Oh, well, I was just going to say, and along with that, you know, it's really great to stay on top of what's trending. You know, that's part of the fun part of our job is people are having a conversation about something in particular that day. Find out what that is. They're going to be on that hashtag being part of that conversation. That's a really wonderful opportunity for you to, I mean, you'll want to find something that's appropriate within your message. You know, you don't want to jump into every conversation, but you can really, you can add your voice to where people are, they've already shown up and they're already curious and interested what's being said, and you can become part of that conversation. And with that, you know, not only do you want to follow the things that are trending, but you also want to kind of follow holidays. And with social media, it's important to be sensitive to certain holidays and, you know, ready to share what, you know, your element on other holidays. It's really good to stay on top of that. You can really become the forefront of the conversation, and that, you know, if you do that.
So going all kinds of crazy, like, daily holidays.
Right.
Yeah. Donut days, coffee days.
Yeah. It's one sugar.
Exactly.
But you can go to, so if you're on Twitter, if you're using Twitter to promote your destination, or you go to Twitter starting with what's trending, and then see if there's anything that you might be able to chime in and add to the conversation about.
Because if it's National Puppy Day, you will know. Like, everybody will know. There are things that just go like wildfire, and, you know, it's up to every brand to decide what is the appropriate message, if any message, because literally every day it's something on social media. You can find something. Yeah. And some of them are philanthropic, some of them are just for fun, some of them are heavy, some of them are light. And every brand has something that's appropriate for them to say in those moments, or not say in those moments. But it is definitely the ability to have a timely angle to help something go a little viral.
That's great. So before we move on to our question about, you know, changes in social media, a reminder, if you have a question for any of our panelists, you can send us a text message at 505-795-0343. You can tweet us at NM Tourism. I always feel weird saying you can tweet us at NM Tourism, but it's NM Tourism. So Wendy, you mentioned Throwback Thursday, Follow Friday. Those have been around since the beginning of Twitter, and they're still relevant. But I also feel things like, you know, the algorithm. Does Facebook just constantly like messing with us? What's the deal? And maybe this has been going on for a long time. I'm just noticing it now. But now Twitter and Instagram are only feeding like certain things. What gives? How do we stay on top of changes? And how do we know what's coming up?
Well, I think one thing to know is that when it comes to social media, I think there's a quote that says, the only thing that never changes is that everything changes. Yeah. And I think that's extremely relevant to social media. They're constantly releasing new updates, new algorithms. So it is important to stay flexible, be ready for the changes, jump on board with it. They're also going to release new features. For example, you know, Facebook, this isn't that recent anymore, but Facebook released the ability to do live streaming, and they want, these social platforms want you to use these new features, so they will promote those new features if you utilize them to a farther audience. So by being adaptable and kind of taking risks and trying it, you're going to kind of stay on top of the game. It is hard to stay on top of all of the changes, but the more flexible and the more willing for some trial and error, the more
experimentation.
Exactly.
And Visit ABQ is doing an amazing job with the live feed. Tracy is fabulous. I haven't tuned in, you really should. But also just, following Visit ABQ, following New Mexico Tourism. They can help you as a business because it is your job to stay on trend, right? And so small business owners may not have the time to always be researching the newest social media things, but you all are. We all are. And so to follow the social media leaders in the state is a resource, absolutely.
So with the changes, I'm glad you mentioned the live stream and stories because honestly, Snapchat scared the bejesus out of me. And I could not figure out how on earth we could use Snapchat because I was like, what can we do with New Mexico True with puppy ears and days with the filters? I'm like, that doesn't make sense for us. Why would we? That's what I perceived that Snapchat was. It was just fun filters. Then Instagram put stories in, and I'm addicted to Instagram stories. So now I see the benefit of Snapchat, but do we need Snapchat anymore now that Facebook and Instagram both have the ability to do stories?
I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I think that there is a certain generation that is shifting from being public about what they're doing on social media to being very private and closed group friends. And so from Snap, and Snapchat, they're using Snapchat. Where they're keeping their circle close. They're not opening it up so that brands can spy on what they're doing. I mean, there are going to be those people who want attention, that want to be influencers, who will do that. But I think that there's a whole generation of, I'll call them kids, that use WhatsApp, use Snapchat.
It's where the teams are, for sure, overwhelmingly.
Yeah. WhatsApp? Where they're literally
the messaging.
Just messaging within their groups. And it really started when moms and grandmas went on Facebook.
True.
Yes, to see what their families were up to. And it's been this migration away ever since. I think that's a future challenge for brands, really, is to find a way inside those private messenger, whether it's even private messages on Facebook, inside that messenger app. I do some work for the New Mexico State Fair, and we get private messages through that like nothing else I've ever managed, where people are just continuously asking questions. And it's completely private, it's closed. No one else can see that people are asking questions and getting these answers, but it's really sort of this one-on-one small group.
It becomes another branch of your customer service.
Yeah, true.
So, wow.
I'm devastated right now.
Heavy. I was thinking, when we were talking about changes down the road, I was thinking they're going to start prioritizing links again, and that's huge. That we're going to have to find a way to talk to people who don't want to be talked to. And already you see that so much with and I think it's the shift has been on the end of the companies to make it more revenue generating, like you're having to pay to get your message out there. But if people are completely closed off and you can't even pay, that's going to be tough. Are there before we go on, any other big old bombshells like that that are down the road? What other trends do you see that we as an industry need to be aware of and thinking through?
Well, I can tell you what I've noticed, and I think we'll probably all agree on some level. Social media networks are increasingly not free. So unless they have a new feature that they're trying to promote, in which case they will give you the engagement you want for no money. But that's not how Facebook makes money. Facebook makes money because you have something that you want to get out to X audience. And they are like, okay, well then give us money for that and we'll make sure it gets to that audience. It's their business model. So increasingly, social media networks will, my guess, and my guess is based on the fact that it's been happening consistently for the past, Facebook went public in 2012, so at least since then, where in order to get the kind of engagement, in order to get the kind of audience that you want, you're going to have to feed a little bit of money. I'm not saying a lot of money. You can do it for relatively cheap, and it's completely open. That is something that we should eventually talk about. It's completely open to anybody who would like to advertise in that way. There's no special permissions, really, in Facebook advertising or Twitter advertising, and because Instagram's part of Facebook, that's all part of the same ad buying. You can feed however much money to reach however X many people as you want. And so social media networks are increasingly a pay-to-play platform. So I can't imagine that they're going to make things more free anytime soon. I think that will continue to be their business model. But they're also a huge traffic driver. You mentioned content. I mean, we all have content on our sites or something similar that we're trying to promote. We have videos. We have other types of content. When you need those page views, when you need social to drive those page views, you will pay the money in social to get what you need on the back end. So that, I would say, will be increasingly the way of the world in social media going forward.
100%. Yeah.
And I think, to be fair, I think for the amount of, basically reach that you get for the amount, it's actually pretty affordable.
It really is. It really is.
So, everybody has different resources for those things, but if you can allot a small amount towards that, it will repay tenfold, in my opinion. It's a worthy investment.
Absolutely. And you can really target your audience very specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you need to know? Like when Facebook says, hey, this post is getting more engagement, do you want to boost it? What are the things that Facebook is asking? Like, what are the things that you need to know to make sure that your anywhere from $30 to $100 to boost that post is getting where you want it to go?
Again, I think that targeting, that real detailed targeting, you can target, so many things, behaviors and demographics and incomes and jobs. I mean, you can really get in deep. It can be a little.
You do need to know who your customer is.
Yeah, you have to know who your customer is, but that helps you also know who your customer is.
You're not wasting money targeting people.
Because they will deliver it to more people if you do generally target it like that versus just saying everyone in Albuquerque.
Right, definitely more bang for your buck in that regard, absolutely.
So really put some thought through, based on what the post is, who's going to receive this, who's the most likely to see this information and get jazzed about it and click the link and actually visit, convert to a visitor from social media, not just saying like Amarillo.
Right, because Facebook wants to deliver content that people want to engage in. That's their model. So if you can help them with that, they'll help you.
And I think if you're just getting started out on Facebook and using Facebook advertising, go ahead and boost a post that goes to friends of fans. Because just to take a look. If you're confused and you don't know necessarily who your audience is on Facebook, then that gives you an idea. So are the fans that I have on my Facebook page really fans? Because if they are, then their friends are more than likely to like them too, right?
Yeah,
Birds of a feather flock together.
True, very true.
If you like New Mexico, I probably like New Mexico, and so it goes like that. So, I think that some people in New Mexico are new to Facebook advertising, and so the easiest way to kind of start that out is to just select the friends and fans and see what happens.
And experimenting, right?
Yeah,
Again, it all comes back to that.
Well, it's good that this is an option for people with limited financial resources, that it's really not expensive to get into. But, I think we all know in New Mexico, especially in the tourism industry, that we have a lot of communities and partners who have very limited resources where you've got one person managing not just all the social media channels, but all the marketing, all the PR, and in a lot of cases also doing like public works and city clerk. I mean, this is just who we are. So if you were going to prioritize your energy, if you're talking to someone who doesn't even know where to begin or is currently trying to do everything, where should they prioritize?
We give a lot of workshops too. We love to teach, and we tell people pick a platform. Don't try to be on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat because you're spreading yourself thin and you're not going to do any of them well. So choose a platform. If you're only going to do one, it is probably Facebook, right? I mean, that is still where the majority of people are these days. And so use your energy in one spot.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say, in addition to that, when you've chosen that platform, find that area that they are currently wanting to promote, that they are, you know, that is new and exciting for the audience. And, you know, if you're able to do something that's maybe more video related, you know, that they're really pushing a lot of video content. So if you're going to put some time and effort into coming up with some sort of content like that, maybe it's best to put it in that venue within the platform. You know, really exert your energy down there to get some farther reach.
And what do you think, Wendy? I know you have a lot of clients that are, you know, in those rural communities, and it's great that they're able to work with you for social media. I know that coming from a small rural community myself, we had there was always like a lot of splintering. So we would go from our Red River Facebook page to feeling like every event needed to have its own page. And then you get into, like the town has a Facebook page, and then the chamber has a Facebook page, and then the Main Street has a Facebook page, and the cultural district has a Facebook page. What are the benefits of consolidating? Would you say designate one person as you do social media? Would you give everybody access to one social media account so that everybody's posting? Like, how do you handle that? I mean, when you've got so many clients in that boat.
I mean, it depends.
Right.
You know, it really does. I mean, I would say don't create a Facebook page for an event, especially where we are now in 2017. If you are trying to launch a new Facebook page in 2017, have fun with that. I mean, you will need to spend a lot of money.
There's so many good quotes coming from you.
You will need to spend a lot of money in advertising to target an audience, to gather an audience to that Facebook page. And so I would say that if you have an event in a community that you should go to, whether it's the chamber or whether it's the city or whether there's a tourism bureau there, and say, we have this event. Would you put it on your Facebook calendar?
Because Facebook is also pushing events now.
Yeah, and they really are pushing events. And so I think that has actually solved some of the event problem issues that we've seen on Facebook, where people create an event, a page just for the event. It's all local, though. I mean, it really depends. If you have someone who is just kicking it on Main Street, and you have someone who's also kicking it as the tourism bureau, let them both do their thing on their pages. Make sure they're working together. Make sure they're sharing content.
Collaboration is huge.
But if you're just looking at 6 Facebook pages across your community and going, no one's really doing anything, what do we need to do? I think that conversation needs to happen about consolidation, and that if you're a chamber of commerce, and this is true for some of the small communities that I work with, we've split off tourism. Even if the chamber is handling tourism and they have a chamber of commerce page, you know, the chamber's needs are a little bit different as their own organization than tourism for the community. And so I think that split is fine, because you don't want to tell your tourists about the next chamber luncheon that's coming up. Right. They don't care. Right. And I think that will hurt you when it comes to promoting your destination. But the chamber needs to promote those events. So sometimes it makes sense to have different pages, and sometimes it doesn't. That is a conversation that I think communities have to have.
Recently we've had that conversation here at the tourism department, in that you're right, you know, like our greater audience who on Twitter, for instance, is following at New Mexico, they need to be inspired about what's going on and you know, the travel related stuff. But then there's a lot of like department things that are happening that are, you know, that it's not good for us to use New Mexico to talk about how cool our staff meeting is. Sure. So yeah, we've had to do that in Twitter. Just have kind of two different. We created a Facebook group for can help. It's a closed group, but open to anyone in the industry, not only so that we can help get out information that way, but so to help connect partners. Again, and we found there have been some job postings there, and if you are on Facebook and you're interested, it's I think it's just NMTD Industry Partners. All right,
so really smart. I just want to say really quickly that groups are also a very hot thing on Facebook right now, and also a great way to increase those conversations, because that's what it's all about in those groups, conversation.
That is a perfect segue. We've got about 15 minutes left, a little under 15 minutes left, so I'm going to try to rush through. Now we're into lightning round. So my next question was going to be hacks. What are your favorite social media hacks? So groups, creating a group is a good one.
Facebook is really great.
What other hacks? What do we need to know to master social media?
I would say another hack to make your life easier is scheduling. You can schedule your posts, and to go to what you said about being consistent in your posts. Sometimes you might not be able to be there in front of that computer, in front of that phone every day to do that. You still want that consistent message going out. Take some time and schedule, and that will really help alleviate things for you, but still get that reach and that exposure and the message that you're
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's such a huge time saver, and does keep that consistency on track.
Exactly.
Great, wonderful. Wendy, you've got to have some.
I love if this then that, which is a little bit wonky, and I know. And so it really helps from a Twitter perspective if you don't have a whole lot of time and you're on Instagram. This is my favorite hack, actually, is that you can set up an account over on ifttt.com and have your Instagram photo, this is very wonky, I know, post as a native photo on Twitter, because that is very, very important. Nobody wants to click on that little Instagram link to go look at your photo. No one will. But you will get a great response if the photo posts natively, and so you're doing some double duty. You do your Instagram post 3 times a day, and you're also getting 3 tweets out of it with a photo right there in the feed.
That's good. Susie in the background, who has never been on Twitter a day in her life, is shaking her head in agreement that nobody wants to click on a link to see your Instagram photo. I didn't know that, and I have seriously, in instances where I'm going to duplicate a post, I'll post it on Instagram, I'll copy the caption, and then I'll go into Twitter.
And you can do the same thing to Facebook, too.
Yeah.
Awesome. And what about you? Any hacks you have?
So Instagram, the platform that we all love, sadly has no live linking. There are some brands that get around that with some third-party linking tools, but it's still link in bio. Okay, it never gets better than link in bio.
Yeah.
Instagram stories are different. Instagram stories do allow live linking. So, yeah.
Dude, really?
Yes.
They do.
It's usually a swipe up motion. But if you're looking for driving traffic on the Instagram platform, your average Instagram post isn't going to allow for that. And link in bio is a tedious and problematic process.
Yeah.
And you lose people, right?
Yeah.
Instagram stories, now they don't have 100% adoption. So not everybody who's on Instagram is on it.
I think it's 10,000 and up, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying.
Yeah,
right?
they're
getting there.
It's
getting there.
Yeah.
I love it. You love it. I mean, it's a great platform, and that is the one part of Instagram that does allow live linking. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, it's huge. And you can track how many times people are clicking on the link, which is very valuable from a marketing standpoint, right?
This is so exciting. Great. So, and with Instagram stories, I know it's something we've had a lot of discussion about. We monitor some other state accounts to see how they're using Instagram stories, and we've talked about the benefits of, is it better for us to, these are other states that have much larger resources than we do, and is it better for us to really kind of stage some stories, or should we be authentic with it as New Mexico True when we're out and about doing things that our followers would find value in or find interesting? Should we just throw production value to the wind and just go, this is what I'm doing? Not personally, but showing something like is Visit Albuquerque using Instagram stories or Facebook stories?
Somewhat, but we definitely are wanting to implement more of it. There are a few Instagram accounts that I follow that aren't necessarily DMO related, but I get really inspired by the way that they use Instagram stories, and they sort of have this balance between this very raw, unedited, story format and also the very edited. And I find that at least when I'm clicking on it, it doesn't matter. I'm enjoying it either way. So I think you can, it's just trial and error like everything else. Yeah, exactly. Just, jumping in and doing it, whether you have something very edited and polished or if you're just in the moment, getting that story out.
I think this is a good time to experiment with Instagram stories because I don't think that it's the adoption rate. Like I personally, I don't like it because I don't have time. If those stories appeared in the feed, I might look at them. But they're up here with little bubbles, and I have to think about, do I want to see Amy's story today? Which I might. But so I think it's very clunky still for people. I think there are people who love it and they want to go look at people's stories. Yeah. But if it's not in the feed when I'm scrolling, I'm not making an extra effort to go there.
Actually,
so I
click on it now.
I would be interested
in the feed.
I haven't seen it. Obviously not paying attention.
It'll give the story.
I would love to see the research.
But they're changing.
I would love to see the research to see how many people are actually looking at it.
Yeah.
Because I'm not convinced that there are tons of people out there looking at it, which makes it a good time to experiment and maybe do some rough things because you don't have as many eyes on it and you can kind of see what happens. Are we getting a lot of
You guys do a lot of live stuff.
We do. We try to. Yeah, when we can get a connection.
Yeah.
Which is always the challenge. Here is getting the connection to do it.
What did I just say about Balloon Fiesta and the bandwidth that was used at Balloon Fiesta this year?
It's something astronomical. It's really difficult on Balloon Fiesta Field to get any sort of, any internet, any Wi-Fi, anything like that. It's tricky, but.
I didn't mean to cut you off, Amy. I'm sorry. Were you?
I don't even remember now. Oh, the live. Yeah, again, Facebook owns Instagram, and so they're also pushing the live. And so we have much higher viewerships of the live stories than we do on the recorded.
I tell you, if your target is a 39-year-old mom who is easily amused by Boomerang, live stories is the place to be.
All about it.
I'm like, woo, look at that. All right, so we probably have time for one more question before we get to any questions that have come in from the phone. Again, if you have any questions, you can text us at 505-795-0343, or you can tweet at NMTourism. We talked a little bit about other accounts that we're monitoring. I personally am fascinated with some of the other state tourism departments, to see how they are promoting their states. It brings great inspiration to me. I want to know from you guys and you, Erin, who outside of your clients or your own destination, who do you think in New Mexico is doing a remarkable job on social media? And are there any folks in or out of New Mexico that we should be monitoring? And where are you guys drawing inspiration from?
We are right now super fans of the Humans of New Mexico project.
Agreed.
They are really doing some phenomenal work about highlighting the people of New Mexico because we are such an amazingly diverse state. Storytelling, for me, is a huge part of social media, right? We want to know the backstory. We want to get behind the scenes. We want to get to know people better. And I think they are just doing a really remarkable job of gathering stories from all kinds of people doing amazing things in New Mexico, and we're just absolutely constantly inspired by them. In fact, we have a project that we're going to be working on with them for a client because we needed that storytelling aspect, and so we just absolutely love what they're doing.
Right.
I would have to agree with that. I know you said outside of it, but I love the Travel New Mexico account as well. I think I love the fact that they do takeovers with really great influencers. I think that can be extremely powerful. I know you've mentioned to me that people love having their stuff featured on an account that has a really high following. So you can really utilize these influencers to continue to push your message as well. It kind of benefits both parties, and I think your Travel New Mexico Instagram account does that so well. So I always look to that account, and it always has incredibly beautiful imagery, which is, everybody loves that, and it's just, you hear a different voice with each post as well, which is powerful. It's really powerful. You guys do a great job of really doing that,
Excellent. And any other, like, out of state, anybody that you're drawing inspiration from, or in state too, in addition to Amy and her great work?
Yeah. Gosh, there's a lot. Of course, I tend to look towards other DMOs. I think Visit California does a lot of really fun stuff on Facebook. Have you guys seen the California Dream Eater? I'm a loyal follower of California Dream Eater. So I think that's some really fun video that they do. I also love the Visit New Orleans and Visit Austin Instagram accounts. I think they're doing a lot of really cool work on their profiles as well. There's some that I follow pretty loyally.
Wonderful. Wendy, what are your faves?
My taste in state, I love the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center's use of Facebook.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that they do a fantastic job, and they really get that community engagement kind of across the country, not just within New Mexico. And so they're doing a bang-up job there. For outside the state, Kimpton Hotel has been my touchstone for a long time when it comes to their use of their own content versus user-generated content. I just think they have a really nice mix of all of the above, but they keep it within their sort of Kimpton brand voice, and that's challenging to go out and find the user-generated content that really does match with whatever your brand voice is, and put those two things together, and I think they do a really good job of that.
Kimpton?
Kimpton, the Kimpton Hotel chain.
Erin, any favorites for you?
This is such a golden time for travel Instagram. I think boutique hotels are doing an awesome job. Hotel Indigo, the chain of boutique hotels, is really a pretty inspiring little feed. But then Nat Geo Travel, Travel and Leisure, Outside Go, if you would like to be crazy inspired to travel, and a lot of them did posts on the Balloon Fiesta.
Yeah.
We had a lot of national pickup on Instagram. I think it was in maybe Travel and Leisure and Nat Geo, but it was incredible. Yeah. So they will occasionally feature things in state, which is fantastic. That's best case scenario. But that's national, right? For local, I'm going to go on a deep cut. I'm going to say Cheesemonger of Santa Fe. If you would like to be culinarily inspired, to eat a whole charcuterie board by yourself, like fancy, beautiful charcuterie board by yourself, the Cheesemonger of Santa Fe. I can't say enough good things. I mean, Simply Santa Fe is incredible. You will find many of my likes in there personally. But like for the deep cut, Cheesemonger.
Absolutely. Right there with that.
Well, I tell you what, it looks like we are getting really, really close to 11 o'clock. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask you guys, because I know we've had some questions come in. Let's do this. We'll send you an email with the questions. We'll get your responses together. We'll put them all on our website, nmtourism.org. So if you submitted a question, we will get it answered and then post the responses. The good news is, too, that we've got you for a whole nother hour next month. We won't have Amy. She's going to tag her business partner, Caitlin, to come in and be here for our next webinar, How to Be Social Part 2. Yes. But Tracy and Wendy have committed to coming back, and Erin is going to be here with us as well. That is going to be the third Thursday of November, which is the 16th. Same time, same bat channel. You can RSVP for that currently on our website as well, nmtourism.com. The takeaways I know that we're going to try to get to, in addition to things we didn't get to today, which I wanted to talk about, shareable content, the importance of sharing content, and where those resources exist, but also creating content. If you are just completely at a loss for sharing content and what's relevant, how do you create your own content? Is it more than blogging? How do you use social media to engage with your audience in person? You guys have done a bang-up job with that, with your Instagram, your Instameets. I know working with New Mexico Magazine.
That's amazing.
We're going to talk about influencers. Are they worth it? How do you measure if they're worth it? How do you even open the door to converse or to hire influencers? How do you prove the ROI? I know, again, with a lot of our local partners, they're dealing with budgets with local governments who a lot of the decision makers aren't marketers, and they don't, it's all about ROI. So how do you begin to to determine what the return is on your social media, and also, what does someone do if social media makes them scared and afraid? Because we got some of those too. So those are the takeaways we're going to try to tackle in the next webinar, which will be, again, 1 month from now, November the 16th. Mark your calendar. And thank you all so much. Thank you, Amy, Tracy, Wendy, Erin, Juan, Susie for being here and helping out with our New Mexico True how-to webinar. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you on the internet.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. Thanks a lot, guys.